So who will be the next player to commit to LSU for 2026? We've got two names. You'll hear them next. It's Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you so much for that. We got a ton to get to here, including an LSU freshman wide receiver setting the national mark in the 100-meter dash on Saturday. We're getting to that in just a second. But we do this every week. We visit with Shea Dixon from On3, the Bengal Tiger, and we kind of give a little recruiting thumbnail update on how the Tigers are doing. And it was interesting this week because LSU last week has been riding a total heater for the class of 2026. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, a week ago, LSU picked up commitments, including the number one receiver in the country, Tristan Keys. And then they went out of state and added a defensive back, Dylan Purter, from the state of Alabama. And of course, they added Jabari Mack, one of the top receivers in the state of Louisiana for 2026. So when I had a chance to visit with Shea, I said, all right, maybe this is a little greedy, but who's next?
I think that we could probably keep an eye on some out-of-state guys, maybe at this point. Like Blaine Bradford and Lamar Brown are two in-state, both here in Baton Rouge, both 5 stars that we could talk all day about, and they're left uncommitted at the top of the board. I still think they'll take a little bit to kind of look around before committing to that hometown school, kind of given how much time they've spent in Baton Rouge, which I presume for both of them really is their whole lives. So I'll go out of state, and a guy I'm circling is Darius Gray. He's an O-lineman. He's the number 2 interior O-lineman in the country. He was here this past weekend as LSU added all those commits, and now the number 1 recruiting class in the country. But he's been a big priority for Brad Davis and company, and I think he's like the number 30-something overall prospect, regardless of position. So we're talking about another top 50 recruit that, if you add, only strengthens that number 1 class. And again, Brad Davis has been, and his staff, that kind of whole group, whether in personnel or the coaches, have been really good with recruiting O-linemen in recent years, even if it's not Louisiana or even a border state. So I'll kind of lean towards a guy like Darius Gray. The O-linemen seem to not care as much about the fanfare of official visits and photos, and they kind of just shut it down at any point. So I'll lean towards the trenches. Actually, quickly, Dom McKinley, who could be starting for LSU this year, should be probably on the D-line. He does have a younger brother who's a 4-star D-lineman in this class who's getting to know Kyle Williams, the new D-line coach right now. So I'll throw Darius McKinley in there for an in-state name as well.
Okay, so Shea threw out Darius Gray, but then added Darius McKinley. I'm going to get to a little bit more on Darius McKinley here in just a quick second, but Darius Gray's an interesting one. 6'3", 285. He's out of Richmond, Virginia, and this is a guy who's a 4-star. Again, when we talk about it, offers from everybody. South Carolina, Penn State, Virginia Tech, LSU, Tennessee, Clemson, Virginia, Ohio State, Auburn, Maryland, North Carolina, Michigan, Alabama, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, USC, Oregon, A&M. You get it. At Miami, everybody. He's one of the best interior offensive linemen in the country. And think about it. In this most recent cycle, you added both Karius Kern and Solomon Thomas, the top 2 interior offensive linemen in America. And now you could have an inside track here on Darius Gray, one of the top inside offensive linemen in the class for 2026. He's the number 31 overall prospect in the composite, the number 2 interior offensive lineman. And why this might make sense is when you look at LSU and they have loaded up on the offensive line, but remember, a couple of those guys on the inside, DJ Chester could kick to guard this year, but he might win the starting center job. And even if Braylon Moore, the Virginia Tech transfer, wins the center job and Chester plays guard, next year Chester could move back to center. Of course, there's always a possibility Cohen Eccles could go to center, but Kern has kicked out to offensive tackle. He's running as the number 2 left tackle right now. So that, in theory, could clean up a spot or on the interior of the offensive line. Josh Thompson, who I think a lot of us are expecting to be a starter this year in 2025, the transfer in from Northwestern, He can play tackle or guard, but in an ideal world, LSU wants him at guard. But of course, that's contingent upon the tackles solidifying their spots. So can Tyree Adams lock down left tackle? Can a guy like Weston Davis lock down the right tackle spot? Do they go into the portal in the spring if there's a starting caliber tackle out there to add someone like that? Maybe. But the point is, Josh Thompson will be gone as well. So you're going to find yourself next year at this time in a position battle probably for 3 spots at least across that offensive line next year because of what you've done here in the portal. Now, there's guys already on campus who have a leg up, but you've even seen some patience. I mean, guys like Tyree Adams, who was a top 100 player, Weston Davis, who was a 5-star, Cohen Eccles, who came in, very highly rated interior player, willing to wait his turn as well. Guys want to play for Brad Davis. They want to develop. And I've said this since literally the day Brian Kelly took the job. The 2 positions he has pumped into the NFL at a higher clip than any other, offensive line and tight end. And you're going to see it again. Will Campbell's about to be a first-round pick. Emory Jones is probably going to be a day 2 pick. Miles Frazier has raced up draft boards as well. You're seeing him at a lot of day 2 mock draft projections. So the point being, you're going to have a lot to sell with Brad Davis, also with Alex Atkins now on staff as well, kind of tag team in that recruiting, 2 of the best offensive line coaches in the country, albeit Atkins working with tight ends. Yes, makes a ton of sense. That would be massive to get another out-of-state commit if they're able to land it. Now, Shea did talk about Darius McKinley. So this is Dom McKinley's younger brother. Now, I always hesitate when we talk about the younger brother because this is the Leonard Fournette syndrome. When Leonard Fournette was coming out of St. Aug, people would ask, is he as good as Leonard? No, he's not. And it's not a knock on Leonard. It's a compliment to Leonard. Leonard was a 5-star. He's the highest rated running back ever to come out of the state of Louisiana. He's one of those generational type talents. So no, he wasn't the same guy. Just like Jacob Bradford, who just committed and signed with LSU, isn't what Blaine Bradford is physically, the 5-star for the class of 2026. So Darius McKinley isn't going to be Dom McKinley, the 5-star number 1 defensive tackle prospect. But here was Shea on Darius McKinley himself as a prospect.
Yeah, I think that, look, Darius has been playing football for Acadiana since his freshman year. That's, just kind of roll out of bed and do that. It's a really talented team. So I think between that and then kind of training with his brother, all of that, it set him up well. And look, he's still grabbing offers. So it's nobody's getting Dom but LSU right now, but Darius is being highly courted. So he's ranked kind of hovering right in there as one of the top 30 D linemen in the country, just outside the top 300. And more often than not, like there are just not a lot of 5-star, nose tackles or DTs out there every year. It's just such a premium position. So he's ranked kind of right along there with most of the rest of them, obviously. Dom finished as a 5-star, but Dom was also 6'5". I'd say Darius is a shade under 6'4" and probably 10, 15 pounds less than where Dom was at this age. But boy, I'll say this, not that it means Darius anything relative to it, but it wasn't until about this time when Dom McKinley even got his offer and then blew up and became a 5-star. So I think that a guy like Darius to already be considered a 4-star and have that playing time at Acadiana and have the offers he does speaks to him being someone they would absolutely take in this class.
Sometimes you'll take look at the West Witt example. West Weeks was the older brother, but they loved Witt. They took West as a transfer, knowing he was a really good player. He had played at Virginia, and they could be a system guy and a program guy, but they hoped maybe it would help with Witt, the younger brother, and obviously it did. Jacob Bradford, Blaine Bradford is another part of that. Jacob Bradford's a very good football player at Catholic High in Baton Rouge. He's probably going to line up at safety, maybe in the nickel role at LSU, a versatile player and certainly a guy worthy of an LSU offer, just not his 5-star brother. But would it help land Blaine? Most likely. This is the inverse of that. You've already got Dom McKinley on campus. Darius McKinley getting an offer would be strictly because of its merit. And remember, he's still got a senior year to play. So a year from now, 8 months from now in December, are we talking about a different player physically and how we might race up draft boards? Potentially. Darius McKinley is 6'3.5". He's listed at 270 pounds. And y'all, I say it all the time. I'm not so much interested in your star rating or your ranking. I'm more interested in who offered. Look at his offer list. LSU, Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, Auburn, Tennessee, Miami, Baylor, Louisville, Syracuse, Missouri. Dude's got big-time offers. You got big-time offers, you got my attention. We'll see if Darius McKinley could be maybe next, or maybe Darius Gray. Of course, we'll keep you posted here on Locked on LSU. Two more things I want to get to. Number one, there is a new number one player in Louisiana for 2027. Shea Dixon will tell you about him next. And an LSU freshman receiver burned up the track on Saturday. I'll tell you who when we continue Locked on LSU, your team every day. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps, and before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, you can apply for term life insurance online right from your couch. You could be covered in less than 10 minutes, and in many cases, no health exam is required. It's affordable as well. You can get $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day. So protecting your loved ones doesn't have to break the bank. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help them protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. That's meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash, whether it's strikeouts, RBI, first inning runs. Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. It's fast and it's simple. Setting a lineup takes less than 60 seconds, and when you win, your payout is quick, safe, and secure. So download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. And finally, our show today is brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us again, y'all. If you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching NCAA tournament games or LSU baseball games, you're squeezing in a round of golf after work, or you're just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. And, of course, there's on-the-go convenience. Whether you're at a game, if you're traveling, 5 Hour Energy is easy to grab and keeps you feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, peach mango. You can even build your own 12 or 24-pack delivered right to your door. And if you need one now, grab 5 Hour Energy at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized with 5 Hour Energy. So there is a new number one for the class of 2027 in Louisiana. As we have talked plenty about 2026 and the heater they've been on, it's never too early to start thinking about and talking about the 2027 class for LSU. And as of right now, there's no commits for the class of 2027. I'll remind you, these are guys in their high school sophomore year. So they're just finishing up their sophomore seasons in high school. They've already played there for sophomore season in high school. They're going through spring, and next year will be juniors. Well, we've talked tons about the quarterbacks in this class with guys like Elijah Haven, one of the top quarterback prospects in the country, Ahmad Hudson out of Ruston, Malachi Ziegler out of Benton. The quarterbacks in Louisiana for 2027 have stolen the headlines. But as Shea Dixon told us, it's an edge rusher who now holds the top spot.
And we just initially had a debut top 100. So it's only really was the kids who were, when you're talking about that class 2027, when we did it more than a year ago, it was really only kids nationally who had played as freshmen. Like Elijah Haven at Dunham, for instance, was in that initial top 100 because he was already starting at Dunham. But the rankings team then gets to get that full sophomore year, and a lot of guys start to play. And one guy who just tore it up was Zyron Forstall over at Jesuit. In fact, the Catholic League got a number of kids into this update. Up top, I think 11 guys in the top 300 for On3 are from Louisiana, which is such a high number this early on. So gives you a little hint that next year is going to be pretty good too in terms of what the state of Louisiana can give them. But Forstall, man, debuts as the number 2 edge rusher, and you're like, all right, wow, that's pretty good. Well, it turns out the number 1 edge rusher is also the number 1 player in the country. Forstall checks in at number 3 overall, no matter the position, no matter the state. And I was talking to Charles Power, who runs our scouting and rankings, and he said for a D-end edge rusher, it's he and this other guy at 1 that really just blew them away. And he said really nobody was kind of close out there. So buckle in. Right now, LSU's got Louisiana's the number 1 D lineman in the country. So it's your interior guys, and Richard Anderson out of Carr, and he's committed to LSU. And they've already got an offer out to Forstall, who you would guess they could probably try to put the clamps on and lock up. And then you've got a chance to get a 5-star edge rusher out of Louisiana next year, which isn't a spot, really. They turn out a ton. Dom McKinley and Mason Smith had a run on 5 stars, but getting a 5-star edge would be unique for Louisiana.
Another name to know, Zyron Forstall out of Jesuit in New Orleans, of course, where LSU's gotten the likes of Foster Morrow and Deion Jones. Zyron Forstall, a name to know, 6'3", 235. Again, he's going into his high school junior year next season. There's only 2 ranking services that currently have 2027 rankings. On3, just to show you the variance, On3 ranks Forstall as the number 3 player in the country. Rivals ranks him number 121 in the country. So a really significant gap there. And the other 2 services, 24/7 and ESPN, haven't put out rankings yet for 2027. So a long way to go. But Zyron Forstall is certainly a name to know. A guy who's already on LSU's campus is freshman wide receiver Jelani Watkins. Well, Jelani Watkins on Saturday made all kinds of headlines for a different kind of reason. LSU was hosting what they called the Battle on the Bayou meet over at Bernie Moore Track Stadium. And you can see this video on the LSU track and field social media accounts if you care to see it. But Jelani Watkins, who was a burner, a sprinter in high school, who was a state champion in Texas, born in Louisiana, grew up in Texas, was a state champion sprinter in Texas, just finished his freshman football season at LSU where he played in 2 games, did not record a statistic, but he was kind of set back a little bit by a foot injury in fall camp. Remember the day it happened, he was walking around in a boot for the rest of fall camp, just really set him back. But we know the speed is elite. And my goodness, did Jelani Watkins put that speed on display Saturday. In his first ever collegiate outdoor meet running the 100 meters, Jelani Watkins clocked a 10.01 second 100 meter. That ties for the best time in the nation this year and is the best time in the SEC. So when we talk about Jelani Watkins at 5'9", 163, a guy with legit track speed, there it is. I mean, we've talked about guys in the past like Benny Brazell, who's now an assistant track coach at LSU, Trendon Holiday, others with true, legit track speed. Very clearly, Jelani Watkins has that, a 10.01 in the 100 meters, the top time in the SEC, and also tied for the top time in the nation. For what it's worth, his best time in high school a year ago was 10.27, so a dramatic improvement there. He did run in the track indoor season, and in his second meet ever, he earned SEC Freshman of the Week honors. He ran the 60 and the 200 in the indoor. His time in the 60, the 6.63, was the 7th best in school history. So you're talking about a very decorated LSU track and field program, and Jelani Watkins already making a dent here just as a freshman. So going to be fun to see him put on the purple and gold and the gridiron in the fall, to see him running past defensive backs. But in the meantime, he's running past other sprinters over at Bernie Moore. So congrats to Jelani Watkins. Again, if you want to see that video, you can check it out on the LSU track and field social medias. Okay, that's going to do it for us here today on this bonus coverage of Locked on LSU. If you're listening on podcast, thank you so much for being there with us. Please subscribe and rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.